Is Holden Geriner really turning the corner for Auburn football?
Freezing temperatures are likely for several hours inland and a few hours closer to the coast.
Yes.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blakcerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. We are joined by Auburn message board legend Charlie 5. And look, a lot of people have been asking for more Holden Geriner. And over the past week, ever since Auburn's pro day, it seems like all the attention and all the positive momentum in the Auburn quarterback room has been held by Holden Geriner. And Hugh Freeze gave him some love yesterday at his press conference, Charlie 5. And then you go out there, and in the media viewing window, he's the quarterback leading the first team offense. So my question to you is Holden Geriner getting better? Is he turning the corner? Or do you think it's what Hugh Freeze said at the start of spring, that everybody's going to kind of get their chance?
Man, it is so hard to know like what this means. Like I kind of feel like it doesn't mean that much. Robby has struggled, and like there was a report that came out that maybe his shoulder's still dinged up. I think I saw that on auburnlive.com. So is Holden getting first team reps a function of that? Like he and TJ sort of rotating? Is it but I mean, if when Hugh Freeze is asked, is there anything positive coming out of the quarterback room, and he just simply replies with Holden Geriner. I mean, that's got to mean something good. I mean, Surely it's not just, hey, I've said nothing very positive about quarterbacks this whole time. It's time to kind of, find something positive to talk about.
I don't think he cares about that.
Yeah, I don't
think he's looking for something nice to say. That doesn't seem to be consistent with what's been going on. He's been pretty honest about the state of this roster and the state of where the program is. So I don't know if it's necessarily that, but yeah, I'm with you. Because we've seen it up close and personal. Like, early spring, he did not look good. But then in the pro day, he looked great. And then just talking to sources we talked about towards the end of last week on this show, where it's like, okay, he's starting to turn the corner here. And then Hugh Freeze saying, yes, the quarterbacks got better last week, which, boy, is that nice to hear. And so, like, is Auburn's quarterback in 2023 on the roster? I still don't think he is. But the fact that it's Holden Geriner, it's interesting. But I would have guessed, Charlie 5, when I started hearing the rumblings of Robby Ashford's, possibly battling something, I thought that would benefit TJ. I wouldn't have guessed it would have benefited Holden just because of what we saw throughout spring. But, man, I think there is a chance that he's turning the corner because from a processing standpoint, just talking to folks close to the situation, it sounds like he's processing information faster.
Well, that's key because it was the opposite of that. To start this thing off, that's a huge turnaround. I think, if we're being honest, like that is a massive turnaround from where it started to what we're hearing now. So I hope that that's the case. I really do. But some of it, I wonder about. There's still talk about wanting to bring somebody in. So am I placating to what is best for the depth chart moving forward? Like once after we add people, or like what, exactly. It's just hard for me to believe from where it started to where it is now that there's just been this massive jump to where now he's all of a sudden become the number one quarterback. You know what I mean?
But isn't this also kind of what we talked about when we brought in Hugh Freeze was, okay, we should see improvement at the quarterback position, or do you think that was more just from a talent acquisition standpoint?
I mean, in 11 practices, maybe. Again, like
not a lot of time.
Today was the 11th practice. So like they talked about it over the last few practices. He sort of stepped up. So like, did all this work get done in like 6-7 practices? I don't know. It very well could be. Something could have just absolutely clicked.
Yeah.
I'm Missouri on it. Show me. Before I can just go ahead and jump on in. That's a little message board humor there for you.
You are the message board legend, and man, that was hilarious. All right, the offensive line was the same with the ones. Dylan Wade from left to right. Dylan Wade, Jeremiah Wright, Avery Jones. Tate Johnson's back. More on him in a second. And then Gunnar Britton at right tackle. That's been remarkably consistent when everybody's been available to practice. So I don't see that much changing. Maybe one of the guards if they bring in some transfer guys over in the May period. But I think a lot of that'll be depth. I think they feel good about their starting five. It's the stuff after that where I think there's some concern. And then Jarquez Hunter is obviously the starting running back. And then your starting pass catchers, Rivaldo Fairweather at tight end. That's been remarkably consistent. And then at wide receiver, you had Nick Mardner, Koy Moore, and Javarius Johnson. No Camden Brown there. It looks like I think he was just kind of sitting some reps out, which
I think I've heard he may have gotten a little bit dinged up, so it's probably just precautionary stuff.
Yeah,
so
don't want to risk that with him. He's too important. He's too important. But I don't know. I like Koy Moore and Javarius Johnson on the field at the same time. I think that allows you to do some interesting things.
Sure.
And then other things of note, the twos were TJ Finley and Damari Austin. Their wide receivers were Landon King, Amari Kelly. And then they had two tight end sets with this one, Brandon Frazier and Micah Riley-Ducker. And then the second offensive line highlighted by Connor Liu at center. We're not going to go through the entire group there. Then the threes were Robby Ashford and Sean Jackson. It is interesting when they go pace drills, Brian Battee's like not ever in there, which I think is interesting. But then when you hear about how he's used in scrimmages and stuff, like he's used as a normal running back. So I don't really know exactly what to make of that. But the threes at wide receiver were Tavares Dawson, and then two walk-ons, Whit Johnson and Jake Cruz, and then Tyler Fromm was the third tight end there. So that's kind of what we are looking at in regards to the pecking order on our offense, Charlie 5. Anything stand out specifically when looking at that?
Not necessarily that, what you just read, but like I've never I want to talk about Connor Liu for a second. I've never heard a coach say, we nailed that one. When you talk about when you're talking about a recruitment, I've never heard a coach say, yep, 100%, knock that one out of the park. In other words, this kid, we were right, 100% right about this kid. And
he was committed to Miami when he took the job, and that was one of the 7 flips that they had.
Exactly. A kid that wanted to come to Auburn, we couldn't pull it off under the last staff. Hugh's here for 27 minutes, and we flip him, and we nailed that one. You know, I think that's interesting. This is a kid. It's going to be hard to keep that kid off the field. Like Tate Johnson better stay healthy, and he better not. You know what I mean? I know he's kind of dinged up now, but this kid's chomping, and he's
the sixth guy. I mean, he's the sixth offensive lineman. You know, if any of the 3 interior offensive linemen get hurt, he will be a part of it. Yep. Yeah. He's the first off the bench. Probably not at tackle, but as far as the interior guys, I mean, he's the first one off the bench, which, I mean, let's just be honest, it's the SEC. Like, he's probably going to play just because it's hard. I mean, it's hard to start the same offensive line every single game for a year. It's just very, very hard to do. So
another thing, I've heard good things. I've heard good things lately, and this speaks to it, about Micah Riley-Ducker. I'm going to be honest, I may have to eat some crow on this one, because after the first practice, he was not one that I was very impressed with. I kind of felt like several of the guys were ahead of him, and it seems like he could possibly be, you know, a number two option possibly, but right behind Rivaldo, or like 2B, depending on what type of formation you're using. I think he caught a really nice over the shoulder pass today or something. I don't
remember you being down on him. I missed that. Did you do that on the show, or was that in a Discord or something?
I think just in general, I was a little. He just didn't seem quite as athletic as some of the other guys, but I think, maybe I was just way off. Maybe I just caught him on a bad day. Maybe I was just way off there, but that's a pleasant surprise, because that's a big-bodied kid who was highly rated. He's probably Harson's best recruit that he signed of his, tenure, and it seems like he's probably going to end up being maybe, he's going to be able to help us, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right. Talking about just kids that they totally just nailed the recruitment. Kayin Lee. I mean, how special can this Kayin Lee kid be? We'll discuss that in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Charlie 5, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Obviously, the tournament is down to just 4 when you look at the NCAA tournament. And the odds to win the national championship, Charlie 5, UConn at -125. San Diego State at +360, Miami at +490, and Florida Atlantic at +600. No SEC teams. I just think that's important to note. think it's important to note, despite being
You
told
should
it was
bet
the
the-
best team ever.
You should bet all the plus odd teams and just hope that UConn doesn't win. And if
but
either one of the,
I don't know. At this point, I'm like, how does UConn not win it?
I'm saying though, if one of those three wins, you're going to win money because they're plus odds if you do the math right. So
all right, so that's Charlie Five's tip of the day right there. Go. And hey, there's a new thing going on with FanDuel for new customers. No sweat first bet up to $1,000. So if you take Charlie Five's advice and it doesn't work out, nothing bad happens. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no sweat first bet. Don't miss out on the action. FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Charlie Five, Kayin Lee is special. He's so special. And I mean, he was the biggest winner, adding him was definitely the biggest win of the early signing period. I know Keldrick Falk generated a lot of discussion, as he should, but Kayin Lee does not look like a freshman. And I was skeptical about, how quick he could transition to outside corner, but I think he's going to start opposite DJ James. At the rate Nehemiah Pritchett is the loser in this situation right now.
At the rate this is going, if things continue to progress, it's not going to shock me too. I'm not quite as low on Nehemiah Pritchett as some people are. I think he's a great player. 2 years ago, he had an unbelievable season. Last year, he struggled, but everybody struggled last year except for DJ James. So if Kayin is better than Pritchett, I'd say Kayin is an NFL player year one. I mean, he is an NFL caliber player year one, because I think Pritchett could probably make a roster. I think he's that good. So the options now.
I think the parts of Pritchett, I think like the traits, the things that make him are better than like what he was last year. And I think some of that could have been scheme. I think he's a bump and run guy, and like they didn't really use him off the line, and I think he's gonna have to play off the line some in this defense too. But still, everybody's talking about like how bad Pritchett is, and like that's incorrect. Like Pritchett is a good corner, but Kayin Lee's special, and so I am kind of curious to see how Pritchett responds if a freshman comes in and beats him out for that job opposite DJ. I hope he doesn't leave. Like I'm kind of concerned that he might.
Yeah, I mean, with the way things are today, I mean, I guess you could look at any of the guys competing opposite him. I mean, JD Rim, he's injured. He's out for the rest of the spring, I believe. Right. Like, does he look at this and say, "Man, I gotta come back. I gotta get healthy, and then I gotta beat out these two. Now I'm third team. Instead of maybe second team. Even though
the thing with Rim though is, let's assume he's back by fall and like he's the backup dude anyway. Like surely he didn't expect to be more than that, right? With Nehemiah coming back and DJ kind of surprising people coming back. But the 2024 season, if it's not Kayin Lee and JD Rim, like we're going to be in a really good spot. Like if you're telling me the 2024 corners are like, that's the worst case, is this JD Rim or Kayin Lee? Like that's an awesome situation to be in. So I mean, if you're Rim and it's like, well, I wasn't probably going to be the starter in 23 anyway, so I'm not as concerned about him leaving. But Pritchett's almost out of eligibility, right? I mean, he came back to start another year to kind of maybe come back in a better scheme and do enough to get on an NFL roster. And it's not going to help him if a freshman, I don't care how good the freshman is, if a freshman comes in and beats him out. So I am curious to see how he responds to that.
Sure, and I'm with you. But what we've seen is with the day of the transfer portal, logic is thrown out of the window a lot of times. It's all like, it seems like a lot of it's, some of it's logic driven and then some of it's just sort of emotional based. But I'm just any guy that he supplants, whether it be Pritchett or Rim or whoever, you got to be a little bit concerned about, because that's a 4-year player right there, or 3-year at 4-year at best player, because after 3 he could very well be gone. Because like I said, if he beats out Pritchett, Nehemiah Pritchett, then he's an NFL player already, as a freshman. So very good to be excited about. I mean, I'm very excited about this kid. And not only that, like physically, I think he's only going to get like freakier, if that makes sense. Like he already looks like a seasoned veteran from a body standpoint. Like,
Sure.
What's he going to look like in 2 years? Like, what's he going to look like in 2 years? I mean, he could be the number 1 pick, or he could be a top, he could be a top 10 pick. I mean, he's got that kind of potential.
Yeah, he controls his body so well. And like, it's not like he's not huge, right? And I think that may be something that kind of hinders his ceiling. But I mean, just the way he can like turn his hips so well, and he's always like got good balance. That's good. It's good stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's good stuff. How fun is it that the 3 freshmen that we've talked about the most this spring, right? Kayin Lee, Connor Liu, and Keldrick Falk, all flips.
All flips
Since
all like bullseye hits.
Instant starter type caliber players.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like those 3 guys, and then Jeremiah Cobb coming in. Still not exactly sure what his role is going to be, but you got to think there's going to be a role of some sort. And it's like, man, they nailed it. They nailed it with that. So in a recruiting class, like you're hoping that out of 25 guys, you're hoping that like, at least, 5 to 10 are impact dudes. You know what I mean? You're hoping you get 5 to 10 impact dudes out of that in a slap together class. You know what I'm talking about? Like after a coaching change, and like the way it is now with the late signing or early signing period so quick after hire dates have to be had. Like those are dudes right there that are for sure hits. Like it, and you got them and it's at multiple positions, and they're all super positions of need. That's big, man. I'm telling you, it's big, and it's going to play huge dividends moving forward. Yep, I'm with you. All right, so a national ESPN writer had an interesting tweet about Auburn's wide receivers. I want to share that in just a moment. Right here on Locked On Auburn. Be sure to join the Locked On Auburn Discord. It is free. All you have to do is click the link in the episode description down below to join that. Charlie Five's in there all the time. I'm in there all the time. Good times to be had there with like 1,700 Auburn fans. All right, so Heather Dinich, she is a senior writer at ESPN covering college football. Looks like she started her spring tour yesterday, where she's going to go and visit a lot of different programs and practices. There's a video that she posted from practice. There's a video that she posted inside the team meeting room, which looks immaculate, by the way. Can't stress that enough. But when she was out there, she she tagged Auburn football, which I think is a little savage, but that's cool. Saying Auburn football fans, you might need some patience with your wide receivers, ...
The thing I don't think she realized, she didn't tag Auburn football fans there. She tagged Auburn football. So you got a lot of,
first off, thank you for all this access.
Yeah.
Thank you. Also, your receivers stink is what she just did.
Thanks for the access, and let me just completely poop on you right now, basically. So, I mean, she's got over 70,000 followers. So she's definitely somebody that, she has an audience, and she's an important voice. And she came to practice. She had all the access, and she left thinking, hey, that was the number one thing that stuck out to her. And I've been curious because we keep hearing different wide receiver groupings, and the only wide receiver you ever hear anything positive about is Cam Brown. That's it.
And you hear a lot of good stuff about Nick Mardner's consistently with the ones.
He is. That's another consistent name, but I don't know how, because, I mean, for a while there it was, hey, he's dropping passes. Like, he looks great, but he's dropping passes. But he is always constantly in that first rotation. You really only hear one positive name of somebody just dominating, and that's Cam Brown. And there's basically they don't even know what they have yet after that, it seems like. So yeah. I get it. I get it.
And I kind of wonder who all leaves in that position group in the May portal. A guy that I'm a little surprised. I mean, in pace drills, there's been times where he hasn't even been in the 3 deep. And then he was on the third team today, Tavares Dawson. Yeah. Running with walk-ons. That's a tough look. Yeah. And there are times where I've been standing out there and, I'm standing next to him and I'm like, when are you going to go? And he never does. Like, there's walk-ons catching passes before he's even given a chance to. So I don't know. I don't exactly know what that's going to look like.
I'd love to know what that means. Is it from a catching the football standpoint? Is it a can't get open standpoint?
Yeah.
Is it a not very physical, can't block? Like what does that mean? Like I would love to know.
He was a name that I thought would be better at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just
I bet he thought that too. I mean, I imagine he's surprised with the way this spring has gone.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. He is he's one that, you know, his freshman year, you're looking at right towards the end of the year, we're creating plays because he's the only one that can get up and down the field. Like we're putting him in, and people know he's going to go deep, and he still beats them. And I mean, I thought the sky was the limit from there, but he just can't seem to move his way back up the depth chart. Like I don't get
buried.
it.
Yeah, that's a big shock. And so, like, do you see guys like him leave? Do you see other guys that maybe are consistently down in the wide receiving group? I mean, I'm trying to think who else that could possibly be. But I've just been a little surprised with all of that. Like, Amari Kelly has to be happy, right? Like, I don't think he's going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Jay Fair seems happy, but like, I certainly thought he would be given more of a look at this point. And so how do those guys respond, right? Because you're going to need like 10 dudes to leave still.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, receiver, I think, is going to be one where they may want to bring in more dudes. And so you're going to need guys to leave.
Well, remember this, Zach. We've talked about this a bunch. We've had a roster full of slot guys, a roster full of slot receivers. And now there is a huge logjam there. And if Amari Kelly can play, if Mardner can play, and you got Cam Brown on the outside, like those are your outside guys, you're fighting like five or six other guys. Yeah, you're fighting like 5 or 6 other guys, side and tight ends. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's tough. Like you got you're not beating Javaris Johnson out, and then Jay Fair seems to be right behind him. Like, where do you put him? Like, where does he go? I don't know the answer to that.
I'm with you.
He seems kind of limited size wise.
I'm with you. Yeah. So maybe that's more of a position group concern than we're giving him credit for, based on Heather Dinich's observations from practice yesterday. So we'll see.
I think she's all over it.
Yeah, she could be. It's nice to get the opinion of like somebody that, you know, is just coming in and watching, right? Not
unbiased.
Necessarily. Yeah. Right. Charlie 5, how can people check out everything that you've got going on, brother?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at @the_Charlie_5. We've already talked about it, but in the Locked On Auburn Discord, I got some really good life advice today in the Locked On Auburn Discord. You should check that out. On the auburnlive.com, the corner message board, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Dad Bod Golf Pod.
You can find all my written work at auburndaily.com, and we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.